You're watching Adorama TV.
Hi everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Adorama TV, product reviews. Well, if you're like me, around this time of year you start hanging out with friends and family and school's in session and people are back from vacation and you want to get some shots of you maybe and friends, and you end up doing things like this where you have your camera and you sort of have somebody with you and you take a picture, and it's not so easy to do that. Well, the cool thing is there are a couple of different options that make this easier, especially if you have several people in the frame. And so we're going to look at two of these solutions. One is called the QuickPod Pro Kit, and that's this kit right over here. I'll talk about it in a second. And we have the Pocket X Shot, which is this right here. So let me start with the Pocket X Shot just to sort of give you an idea of how this works. All you do is you take one of these guys and you attach it to a small point and shoot camera. You get that all fastened down there, then you can adjust how this angle is. So I'll angle that back just a little bit, something like that. Now let's say it's me and a group of 4 or 5 friends and I just want to grab them and get a little quick shot for Facebook. Well, this extends. I can grab my friends and we can all have a picture just like this. So I'll set this on maybe a 2-second delay and say, hey, everybody smile at the camera, click, and then we have our fun shot. And this is great for meetings and parties and things like that, because instead of having to find somebody to take pictures, you can just do it yourself. And that's pretty cool. So that's the X Shot. Now let me show you this other guy over here. This is the QuickPod Pro Kit, and it works essentially the same way. So this screws onto your very small camera. And these are made for small point and shoot cameras. And then there's this adjustment here at the very top, and allows you to adjust the angle. And this one actually has this little teeny mirror on it right here. So what that allows you to do, once I adjust this, and I'll get that all locked into place. Once you have that adjusted, what I can do is I can extend this, and then friends and family can look in the mirror and sort of see how they're smiling, etc. Make sure everybody has their eyes closed, and then you can take that shot. And it works great. Now, one of the things you'll see, the difference between these two things, this again, the QuickPod is about that large. So it's not extremely tall. It's about 1 foot. And I'll show you the difference between that and the X Shot. Because the X Shot, when I fully extend it, you can see that the X Shot is almost twice as long, not quite, but almost twice as long as the QuickPod. Now that might matter if you're shooting groups of people instead of maybe 2 people at a time, and so this is a little bit longer. So if you're looking at shooting more than 1 or 2 people in your shots, you might want to go with the X Shot, which is a little bit longer. But the QuickPod actually has some things that the X Shot doesn't. Specifically, it has this little guy right here. Now this is a very small tripod that you can use in addition to the QuickPod. So let's say we have a bunch of people, maybe at a wedding, and we want to get a picture of our table at the reception. Well, I can attach this to my little camera here. So I'll attach that really quickly. And that just goes in the tripod mount. And then there you have it. You've got this little tripod that you can use to make sure that everybody's in the shot. You can adjust that. Now the other thing is I can extend these legs just a little bit. So you can stand that up a little bit taller. And of course you would make that level. And that's pretty cool. The other thing that this does, which is really nice, is let's say that we want to have our camera a little bit higher than that. Well, what we can do here is the bottom of the QuickPod actually unscrews, and you can take this little belt clip off here, or pocket clip, whatever you want to call it. And then once that comes off, it's a normal standard 1/4-20 thread, and so that attaches right to this little tripod. So now you have the ability to open those legs up like that, and then you can stand this up. So now you can put this up here, and so it's a little bit higher, and for a little bit more stability, you can again take those legs and extend them so it's a little bit more stable. The other thing this has, you can attach this little screw mount to the bottom again. You can either attach a lanyard or you can attach this little carabiner on there. So if you're hiking or out and about walking around and you want to carry this with you, well, you can just attach it to something and it sort of hangs off there. Now, one of the things that we noticed with both of these is they work great with very small cameras like this guy here. This is a Canon PowerShot. It works great with this little Pentax here. It works just fine. But when we went to a larger camera, something like this, it weighs a couple pounds. Neither one of them really had the strength to hold something that was this heavy. And this isn't a very heavy camera. So really they're made for extremely small cameras, like the little PowerShots and the little point and shoot cameras, not one that has a larger lens like this. The other thing that we saw on some of the websites that were using these guys is this can be used as a support for a flash. And so you can just screw that onto the bottom of your flash mount here. And most flashes have a mount that has a 1/4-20 thread, and then that will hold that. And so if you're shooting and you need an external flash, You can hold that up just like that. Now, one of the things that we saw on the QuickPod Pro Kit website was they had that fully extended. In our testing, when we extended that fully, it just feels like it's about to fall over any second. And so I don't recommend doing that. It just seemed like it's just too much of a risk to do that. And it did fall over a couple times. So if you're shooting in an environment where maybe there's some movement where people are zipping around and somebody bumps that, well, you could really damage your flash. So be careful with that. Now, the other thing, besides the QuickPod Pro Kit, you can also do that with the X-Shot. It will also mount right there because it's also a 1/4 thread. So once you have that on there, I'll tighten that down. Maybe you have an assistant or somebody, you can actually hold this and use that up in the air just like that. And so both of these will work with an external flash, and that's pretty cool. Now, another thing that's really neat, what you can do some unusual things with this. So this is a waterproof camera like a Pentax. This is a Pentax, an adventure camera. So I could have taken this guy and maybe I want some underwater shots, something like that. Well, once I get this all mounted up here, make sure it's nice and secure, well, you can do some things like just take this, hold it upside down, dunk that underneath the water, and get some really unusual point of view shots if you have a small waterproof camera like that, and both of these will do that. And so a lot of different things that you can do with either the QuickPod Pro Kit or the Pocket X-Shot. And so both of them work out just fine. So there you have it. We have the QuickPod Pro Kit. It's $22. It works great. It's got a little mini tripod that comes with that. It also comes with this sleeve here, this little pocket that allows you to put all of these things in there. And so you won't have any of those lost. And the X-Shot, the Pocket X-Shot, this is $25. Now, one difference that we noticed between both of these, this is made out of metal, except for the top. This is made out of metal. This is made out of plastic. And so the X-Shot was a little bit stronger, actually a lot stronger than the QuickPod Pro is. And so if you have a little bit heavier camera, you might want to use the X-Shot. But besides that, they both work pretty much essentially the same way. Well, thanks for joining me this week. Remember, if you have questions about photography gear, you can send your questions to me at askmark@adorama.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.
This episode is brought to you by Adorama TV. Visit the Adorama Learning Center where you'll find photography tips and techniques, links to the gear used in this episode, and related videos. For all the latest photography, video, and computer gear, visit Adorama.com. And the next time you're in New York City, visit our store located on 18th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue.